ぱり我々のやらなきゃいけない責務なんだかもしれないですよね。
It's honestly beautiful. That little speech here of just saying it's our duty, I think, passing on the baton and all that, it's very beautiful because you might not know much about the series Pluto that aired earlier this week, but it is a series that came out over 2 decades ago. The first chapter came out on September 9th, 2003. We look at today's date, it is at the end of October, October 30th, 2023. And it's been over 2 decades, 20 years, since the first chapter of Pluto came out, and it ended back in 2009. So still over a decade old in terms of when it officially ended. And ever since this series came out and came to a close, even as someone before I ever even imagined I would be making content on YouTube, making videos about anime and manga, light novels, etc., anything that really just fancies my interest, I heard talks about Pluto. I heard many people say that this series should get an anime. I remember when I was exploring anime, before, like I said, I was even a YouTube content creator, I remember, looking into Monster. I watched Monster, I read a little bit of the manga, and I was legitimately blown away by this work. I was blown away by just how good the Monster anime was. The writing, to this very day, is super unique, and still stands the test of time, in comparison to pretty much almost any story that's made today. It is a legit great story. This writer and the artist is very good at what they do. They know what they're doing, they know what they're working on, they're very talented. And Pluto is one of those type of series that, has finally gotten an anime. And it released earlier this week with 8 episodes, and each individual episode, as you can see here, is at least an hour long. 71 minutes for the first episode, 57, 62, 58, you get the point. There was 8 episodes in total that came out, and I have yet to finish this anime, as you can see here. I've only watched the first episode, and from what I have watched, it legitimately is a great show. Phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. The wait was worth it. And for clarification, I never read the manga of Pluto. I never read the original source of it, and it's not because I didn't want to read it. I just never got around to it. Just simple as that. I have no other excuse to offer. But I knew I would have loved it. If I was to ever read it or watch it, if it had an anime, I knew I would love it. And the wait definitely was worth it to be able to sit down and watch this show. And after watching the first episode, I sat back in my chair a few nights back, and I was just like, damn, this is good. This was a really good first episode. And I was like, wow, I wonder what everybody is saying about this. Because it's I watched it early in the day when it released. And then I was busy with work that day. And then I noticed throughout the day, I saw nobody talking about Pluto. Nobody was talking about this show whatsoever. And I was just thinking to myself, why? It's so good. And I remember people talking about this, saying it was an amazing show that everybody should be excited for. And there definitely is a fan base that probably is talking about this, but I was like, I don't see widespread conversation about this like I saw with, let's say, Cyberpunk or anything, or, Arcane and those different type of stories that's come out. I did not see a lot of conversation around it. And I was like, why is that? And, I was looking, I was like, no, it's not bad. The first episode's amazing. And I'm assuming it just continuously gets better if you continue watching it. People have told me they were around episode 5 or 6, and it got even better. So, I know it's not that. And then I just started thinking on a few things. There's a few factors at play of probably why there isn't a lot of conversation around this show. And that is, for one, Netflix's release. Now, this could be entirely up to my algorithm on social media and stuff, why I didn't see a lot of conversation around it. But I think after multiple days, almost a week at this point since this series came out, and barely any conversation I have seen even on YouTube about it, I think it's safe to say that there is probably something going on here. What is that? Well, we gotta look at Netflix's track record of how they release things. The first indicator is that they release bulk. And as I've talked about in multiple videos in the past, I feel like bulk release kills a show. I really do. I feel like it straight up kills any discussion of a show, because let's think about this. When I do videos on the channel, okay, I talk about individual episodes. Let's say a 100 Girlfriends episode comes out, a Free Run episode comes out, Shield Hero, whatever. I talk about an individual episode, okay? Like Mushoku Tensei of last season. I talk about one episode, I'm able to analyze it, talk about it, just tell my overall thoughts of it, and it just, a lot of people enjoy that. A lot of people like watching episode by episode. I understand there's people like watching, binge watching, bulk watching, etc. But when it comes to the conversation of anime, most anime fans do probably like watching a week-by-week basis, not because they like waiting, but the discussion around it is just part of the fun. And if you watch multiple episodes back-to-back, a lot of the discussion around individual episodes will just cease. It's just given. Like, for instance, let's put this in perspective. Let's say I watched episode 1 all the way to episode 8, okay? And I was to sit down and do a review on the series, okay? There would definitely be a lot of things throughout these middle episodes I just would not talk about. Not because they weren't good, because they probably are, but because most of the people that finish a show are going to talk about the beginning and the ends. That's what's going to happen. They're going to talk about that, maybe 1 or 2 points throughout the middle episodes that really stood out to them. Unless you're going into hours of long analysis, most of the time people are only going to talk about the beginning and the end and a few things that really stood out. Which is legitimately sad. It is. And so, I feel like, making videos on content that releases in bulk is infinitely a lot harder than it is episode by episode, which I think is one of the big reasons of why there isn't a lot of YouTubers even talking about this series. I have definitely seen it. But there's another factor at play. We gotta look at the time. 71 minutes for the first episode, and basically an hour long for each episode. This isn't a bad thing. I think that it's awesome to be able to sit down for over an hour and watching an anime. But, with the format and the way it's designed, it's obviously binge model, being able to watch back-to-back episodes, okay. But you gotta factor in, this is basically over 8 hours of content of watching, which is, once again, is awesome, having that much content. But a lot of people are watching anime, when they see these episodes and the length of it and all that, they're like, yo, I definitely can't sit here and binge this all in one day or whatever, and it can get very annoying for people. But then there's another factor at play, this anime season. This anime season is jam-packed. There is a lot of good stuff that's airing this season. Jujutsu Kaisen, Frieren, 100 Girlfriends, Shield Hero, Shangri-La, I always butcher that for some reason, and a bunch of other different shows, like Undead Unluck. There is a lot of anime that is really good. It's a packed season, and because we have a really good anime season, it's hurting this series even more than normal. And I think that Netflix deciding to release this in the middle of an anime season instead of at the beginning also did a really bad job. But that doesn't just stop there. I think Netflix has a problem with just, I guess, hyping up a series. They don't advertise enough. I think that's a big thing. Usually when it comes to these projects, like these anime that they get, Netflix only maybe hype beasts them maybe when a trailer drops, never talks about it again, and months pass, or they hype it the day before it releases. And it's like, come on now. And I feel like if there was a lot more hyping up and discussion around it, it definitely would lead to a lot more people, being notified that Pluto even exists as a show. Which gets into a big point that I want to talk about, is that a lot of people were actually just completely unaware that Pluto was even out. I saw so many people shocked a few days ago. It's like, wait, Pluto even aired? And I think, once again, this goes back to what I just said, is that Netflix is just very poor with advertising anime. They're really bad at it. I don't know who is in their marketing team, but they definitely do not market these high-budget shows as much as they do. I mean, I feel like it's at random, something like Cyberpunk really just gets out there, and we gotta look at that one. A lot of people are like, why do these shows need probably advertisement, etc., but we gotta think about Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk as a series, when it, came out for the entire world to see, it already had a pre-established fan base. There already was a fan base for the games, and love it or hate it of how the game released, there was still a lot of hype and conversation around Cyberpunk before it ever got an anime. And so when an anime was tacked on with some of the hype of the game, people were interested. They wanted to. And I feel like Cyberpunk's anime, re-emerged some love for the game. So it's like, it already had things that really helped it. It was already advertised, but Netflix didn't really advertise it. It was just the game doing the heavy lifting. And Arcane could be said in the exact same way. So when you look at all these factors, most of the big heavy hitters on Netflix usually is thanks to already pre-established fan bases that are huge. Absolutely huge. And it may sense why it, bursted out in popularity. Not to say that Pluto does not have a fan base. It definitely has a fan base, but it does not change the fact that it definitely is more niche in comparison to something like Cyberpunk or, something like League of Legends, Arcane. So, all these into consideration, whoever's in the marketing team for anime really needs to do their job better. I understand there's different reasons, standout reasons why they can't, but I feel like Netflix could do a better job, and it really does hurt it. It really hurts it, and it's kind of sad also seeing the numbers here. Only 4,000 views in 12 hours on Netflix. That's crazy, actually. That's legitimately crazy. Yeah, the big point I'm trying to make here is I think that Pluto has been lukewarm in terms of reception. Not because it's bad, but because most people don't even know it's out, and the people that do know it's out, it's probably just taking their time with it because it's incredibly long, or they've watched it all in one sitting, but whatever it may be, I just feel like there's a lot of factors that has really hurt this show, and this is why I really hate it when Netflix releases anime. Like, they really do, I think, do a lot of damage to anime that they release. Now, once again, this is just my personal bias, but that's just what I personally think. I could be wrong there. If anyone wants to say I'm wrong and prove the facts, do so, but that's just my 2 cents on the matter. But yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about that matter and just get my thoughts out there. I plan on potentially doing a review of Pluto in the future, like talking about the episodes and stuff, but I wanted to get my thoughts out on the community's reaction to Pluto first before anything else. But tell me your thoughts on how you felt about this video, how you felt about this information. May you all have a fantastic day or not wherever you live. Stay healthy. Chibi out.